Hey guys, welcome back to Rock and Roll Rugby, and I am quite excited for today's one. It's our first ever rugby podcast, Rock and Roll Rugby podcast, and I am quite happy to say it's one of my family members and best friends, really. That we're going to be doing a little bit of a podcast together. It's Lip, none the other. So Lip, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joe.
So basically, just so that you guys know who Lip is, we actually basically grew up together. He played a little bit of rugby when he was younger at school for the Sharks, I think. Was the Sharks, eh? Was it the Sharks?
Yeah, when I was under 13.
He played under 13 Sharks, so played a bit of rugby. Big Bulls fan. I'm also a big Bulls fan, so the provincial rugby team Bulls. So we used to get together quite often for Bulls games and, of course, Springbok games. And he's going to be joining me for just the first ever Rock and Roll podcast, and I hope you guys are all going to enjoy it with us. Today we're going to be just talking about everything Springboks and All Blacks, basically. Mainly to just look into the future. We know the current situation, what's going on. The last... We have to look... We can't just look at the last game, Lib. So the thing is, when I'm thinking of us having to look at these two teams and thinking them going into this World Cup, we can't just look at the last game, because that would be totally wrong. We have to go back, like me and you just moved, you moved a couple of, it's quite a few, 5 months now that he's been here in New Zealand, and we've watched a few games together, and one of the first ones me and you watched together was that game, the first one between the All Blacks and the Springboks. And if you rewind and think of that game, that the All Blacks was a totally different team on the field that day, eh?
Yeah, it's basically opposite what happened on Saturday. I mean, the thing is,
and I wonder what happened, because if you go back and you, I watched you. I don't know if you watched these games. It was because it was big here in New Zealand, but the All Blacks played about a year and a half ago. They played, or 2 years ago. I think it's 2021. They played against the French team, and that's when they first kind of like, it was a bit of a downfall for the All Blacks, where they played against the French, and the French was just, I mean, they just shut the All Blacks down. It was the first time ever in my life watching All Black rugby where it looked like the All Blacks looked a bit like they don't know what they're going to do on the field. We've seen this from the Springboks before, at times in the Springbok times, that we like, come on guys, what do you want to do on the field? They sometimes have looked like that, but you've always felt that the All Blacks have kind of had structure and knew what to do. But in that game, in the France game, they lost 40-25, and at one point, they couldn't string anything together. They were not structured. It looked a lot again to me like last night. And what's weird to me about it is, since then, it's weird that what's happened is they started improving. They went to Ireland, came to tour here, and they had their ever losses, their first time ever losing to Ireland at home in a 3-game series. So they won 1 and Ireland won 2. But they improved. They were still competitive. They weren't like totally out of it. But this game really felt to me like we went back to that France game. And I don't know, what do you think could be the reasons why they were shut down like that? I just don't know what it is. For me, one of the things I thought, if I can just quickly, before you jumped in there, I thought that maybe it was just that after the last game, if you remember the last game, the All Blacks, the first 20 was like all over the Springboks,
Yeah.
And I think this game, maybe the Springboks did that to the All Blacks. So the All Blacks just didn't expect it coming. It's almost like they were shell shocked. I always, with our Afrikaans ex, shell shocked. Yeah, it was like bomb shocked, or bomb squad shocked. So I don't know, but what do you think? What do you think?
Well, obviously, like while we were watching the game, it could be jet lag or something. But I mean, both teams flew to England. I mean, so, and then the other thing is, what I also think is maybe because watching the replay again, it seems like maybe they were holding back on purpose. For me, is when I was watching the replay, like Bowden Barrett, it seemed like he didn't go full.
full on. He wasn't. Yeah, no, I understand what you mean.
It
Like,
seems like the guys, he didn't put an effort to catch the guys. I mean, the thing is, you go and look nicely. So it could be that they're holding back just to confuse the, like make them soft. I mean, the World Cup's just around the corner. I know that's a bit far fetched.
yeah, look, I mean, it's. I've heard that. I've also heard that. So it's not like it can't be the case that maybe they don't want to show their full cards in what they can play. But a lot of other things that I'm hearing quite often is they didn't take it that seriously because this was the last warm-up match that they don't really have the passion to win as such. Because
yes, I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, it was a warm-up match, but it looked like those guys went to war.
exactly, and that's why. To me, even the one that you just told me, I don't know. I don't think so, but it is a good point to look at. It could be, but I don't know. I honestly just feel that maybe on the day they were just. It's almost like when I think if you're going to be playing any kind of sport and you've got the full plan in your head what you're going to do, and suddenly someone's just all over you and you don't have a B plan. So you only have A plan. There's no B plan. Then suddenly, you're a bit flustered. What do we do now? And we've seen this happen to the All Blacks only in the last, say, 2 to 3 years before. Before that, I've never seen that from the All Blacks. But it's almost, for me, a personal opinion, it's almost like All Blacks is an attacking type team. So they like to attack the line and be on the front foot, and that's when they look good, when they have freedom to play the ball. But as soon as the All Blacks are being put like under pressure quickly and they're on the back foot, they need to play, for me, more of a kicking type game. And I don't know if they had the right players on the field to play that type kicking game, which could kind of get them out of it. Like a good question I can ask you, if you recall the last game, they kicked a lot. They didn't kick in this game. They tried 1 or 2 times, but
the thing is, they didn't actually, in the first 20 minutes, like you said, they didn't have much of the ball. I mean, we were in their quarter the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, we should have
100%.
had more points at that moment.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
yeah, at the end of the day, we were there. They didn't get a chance to do anything in those first few minutes or 20 or first half.
Yeah, and it is true what you're saying. Like, they didn't get much of the ball, but even though that is the case, they did maybe in that first 20 minutes. If you look at the statistics halftime, our possession was kind of 50-50, so they had opportunities. What I'm saying with the kicking game is, if you see how we struggled in the up and under game, now that used to be Springbok game, but since Springboks have kind of changed their backline type game, being more of a running type game, they've moved away from the kicks a lot. They'll do it every now and then if a Faf de Klerk plays or Jaden Hendrickse, but they're doing it a lot less. But if you look at the All Blacks, where they had a lot of success against the Springboks, was in that last game when they played the up and under. So I was just thinking, like, or try and look for your 50-22s. So I mean, like with the 50-22s, they got in on the last game, and just generally a kicking type game. So what you do is you ask your fly off to drop back a bit. That's your plan B. Plan B is the back line drops back a bit, the fly off drops back a bit, and let's rather try to do a bit of a kicking type game in between as well, because we all want to see running rugby. Let's be honest. You, me, like everyone love rugby, running type rugby, but I like a lot of Springbok supporters always say to me, the Springboks, I'm so glad they don't kick anymore. But in my opinion, I still feel now on the other side, sometimes I'm like, if we're in trouble, like that game against the All Blacks, we should actually be doing some of those up and unders, because it's just trying something different to change the outcome of the game. Because if the momentum doesn't shift, it's almost like you're flustered. You're feeling, I try the same thing over and over. And they tried to run us once or twice, but they were not deep at all. So they were so flat that at one time that they tried to run us, Arendse got an intercept, because they trying to run from too flat, because they were just not, the normal All Black team that they would.
Looked like they were rattled. I mean, the thing is, you think about all the penalties and stuff. The discipline was. Really bad. I mean,
that's good you brought that up, because I wanted to have a chat about that. Yeah, the penalties. So what I wanted to ask you around those penalties, I've heard some people say, with Scott Barrett, the thing for me is a lot of people are saying, you know, he was deliberate going into Malcolm Marx when he... That first one was a normal penalty. The first penalty, the first one was unfortunate, like you say, where he unfortunately, if you go through the ruck and you touch the scrum off, it's immediately a penalty. You can't go over the scrum off. So the first one I understood, but the second one they say was intentional. But Scott Barrett, to me, and the type of rugby I've watched of him, he's not that type of dirty player at all. Look, they all had to get more fired up because they weren't winning. But rugby is a hurt game, like my dad used to say. It is a hurting game. You know, you're trying to hurt the other team. But some are saying he very deliberately went in there. But I think it was in the heat of the moment that he just ran in with his shoulder. It didn't. To me, still, I made that video. I'll still show you the video of that Owen Farrell. That's the one. So with Owen Farrell, I made that video where he was going too high, you know. And with Owen Farrell, you could see there's more than one time where you watch these clips and you can see it's very deliberate. And some of those where
he enjoys it. He actually enjoys it.
100%. I also think so. I think he's enjoyment, but he definitely knows that he needs to. Sometimes he's too small to get the guy down. I really think he's too small for some of those guys, and then what he does is that's his only way. He's got to use his full body weight, and then he drives from the bottom. But I mean, one or two of those, even with Owen Farrell, you could see clearly, blatantly, just goes with the shoulder. He's trying to he's saying, listen, I will sacrifice the penalty for the team. You know, and so that we don't score the try. And that's really what I feel with him. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked. What do you think, what's your opinion around him and those two penalties? Do you think it was, because remember also, Pieter-Steph du Toit also had one like that. But he tried to wrap a bit, but he also was coming in quite low on the guy and he hit him somewhere here.
Too late with the arms. A little bit too late. But obviously, I mean, you could say that the thing about Scott
Barrett,
I mean, but yeah, like I say, for me, his first penalty, he made a mistake. So obviously there was a penalty, but obviously because there was so much penalties before that, he got the yellow card. I mean, so it was just unfortunate for him that happened to him. And then obviously the second one, it was just not his game. I mean,
look, all those guys was under a lot of pressure. Imagine you playing that game, and I mean, there's actually to me, that's where they're saying that the guys, you know, was not into the game. I don't think they can look like that. Like you said earlier, it looked like they were all like in some boxing match. So they were definitely committed and going in. I think it was more frustration that you're trying to take out somehow. Because I think as a player, I have to step up. I have to give more. You know, and maybe that's just the passion not being put in the right place. But he's now up for judicial board. Yeah, I said it right that time. Judicial board. So that's when they now. So because he got a red, they still refer that to a judicial board. They look at it, and if they feel it was dangerous, they will give him, suspend him for some games. Now, the problem we have is after the Owen one, the problem was Farrell's one, then eventually now he got three weeks for that one that he had. Lapis Labuschagne, I think, got 2 weeks for his one. I don't know with Vinnie Polo. It's another English guy that got another one the other day. They're number 8. So I don't know with him how many weeks he got. So I think they need to make an example out of it. So they are going to suspend him for a game or two.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that they actually mentioned in the game that it was turned back to a yellow. So
that's what they said in the game. And then afterwards, I just checked the news earlier. They're saying it's red and it's going to a judicial board. And this is the funny thing about rugby now. Rugby doesn't finish when the games finish anymore. Like they go... Moenie worry oor die shit nie. So the game doesn't finish when the game's done. The game's still, you know, they can still review stuff. They can still suspend players. in the one side it's a plus, but what I like about it in the one side is that they don't sit there and rock and roll videos and we all have to watch it.
Yeah.
They can refer it, send the guy off, and we can keep watching rugby. But on the other side, it gives a lot of people a lot of opportunities to manipulate things, and the player's got to go there with his own, like going to court. He goes with his own argument with someone that defends him. So it becomes very political to me as well, and it's like, where's the old days? Where's the old days of rugby gone?
But I mean, what is weird is, I mean, the back and forth on the videos and the TMO and stuff. There wasn't much of it, but why was this game so long? I mean, that was quite weird. It was really actually just a weird game. It was a weird game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because it was in England. Because I mean, the thing is, the crowd. Like we said when we were watching the game, all blacks,
all right through the game. You should have heard the one today. Ireland played Samoa, but man, Samoa played a game. They beat Samoa by I think 6 points or something, but it was not far. And you must hear they're running down the clock the last minute or so. Just running down the clock with forwards, and you just start hearing booing to them like. They're number one in the world, and everyone's just going, boo! It's like crazy how clear you can hear these days with the fans who they support. And it seems like it's almost a whole, stadium sounded like it was for the All Blacks, which was interesting to me because then when you look at the visuals, you're like, no, but there's loads of Springboks jerseys.
Yeah, that's weird, yeah.
It was strange to me, yeah. Anyway, let's... Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I mean, the thing is, there was some moments that it felt like it was back in COVID. I mean, it was so quiet. I mean...
That's true.
There was nobody there, and there was no music playing. It was actually not really...
Yeah, but yet they say the vibe after parties and after the words. I saw some interviews where they interviewed a whole lot of drunk guys, Springboks and Kiwis, and their opinions. And there was parties going on, and there was vibe there. A lot of those people are already traveling for the full thing. So it's the first big game that they've watched before they're going to the World Cup, because that's England, and then they go to France for the full World Cup. So there's a lot of people just like now, like journeying with all the games, just journeying. So it's done now. They're all going now to France. But a lot of those people they're going for all the games. So they're all on a bender. They're just drinking every weekend. And it was weird, like you say, that it got so quiet at times. But I think if you took the 80,000 people that were there, I think a lot was All Blacks. Because why was it so quiet when the Springboks started winning? So I think a lot of those were actually, let's I just wanted to ask you around the game. So for you, when you were thinking of players, I want to start, maybe if we can start with the Springboks. Who stood out for you in that Springbok team, and what did you, from this week's, we're talking only this weekend's game, what did you feel in general of the players that played? And
I must be honest, it's actually quite difficult to really say there's 2 or 3 players that really played good, but because they actually played, all of them played really good. But I must be honest, that 20-year-old Moodley,
Kainan Moodley.
Kainan Moodley,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, he played a real good game. It's just unfortunate for him not getting that try, because that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
So he was really good for me, and obviously Kwagga always, when he comes on, he makes a difference, really does.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Well,
I must be honest, Andre Esterhuizen, I mean, I really like him. He's a real good player.
Yeah, so for me, like, I mean, I had exactly those guys. For me, with Kainan Moodley, I actually, before the game, we had I made a video, and part of my video is, and it's weird, I heard some South Africans, I was watching like Facebook comments. I like to sometimes just watch the comments to see what people say about the team. And on Facebook, people were all quite excited about this new combination, because we got a little bit bored of Dilelendi. Who is it? Dilelendi and they're good. Don't get me wrong. They both. Dilelendi going through a time where it's a bit tough, but he's strong on his feet. But he's one type of player that you're so used to. You know what he does and how he plays, because we've seen him so much. The same for the same for a Mapimpi. We've gotten so used to these guys in their positions. for me, most young guys should not be going into like new positions on an international level in their third game or fourth game. But like I felt that with the Australian games where Eddie Jones is putting players into new positions, and you can see they're struggling.
But
Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, if you think about the way, what did you call the split, or what's it?
the 6-2 split.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, and then when Reinach came on,
Oh, but you know what? They actually had a 7-1 split. I was wrong because
7-1.
they changed it right at the end and put in another forward and had only one due to some injury or something. So they only had Kobus Reinach. That's why Kobus Reinach eventually had to go play wing for a while.
So
Yeah.
he was actually not there to play wing. He had to actually play on for.
Well, they're saying because they're taking 4 scrum-offs to the World Cup, that's why they can use these guys as wings. So they can use Grant Williams and Kobus Reinach as wings. I don't mind that much because, let's be honest, I know a lot of people that play wing will now complain and argue with me. But to me, playing wing, yes, there's very skillful ones. But a Reinach or Grant Williams, I think they can be pretty good at wing. It's like
Yeah, I mean, and they got the speed.
Yeah.
Look how he chased down.
Roygard. Yeah.
I mean, that was quite.
He didn't make it. He still scored, but he chased him down. Yeah, I mean that was also.
10 minutes he wouldn't have made it.
So then also while you're going that way, by the way, before I go there, I know for you're not such a big fan, but for me, Kulisi also had, from a captaincy point of view, a very good big influence and
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's actually nice to have him back.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I said I'm not a big fan, but I mean you could see the difference, and you could really see that that guy really loves his team. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the game, the way he reacted to all the fans cheering him and stuff.
Did you see when he got tears in his eyes? It looked like he, yeah. And I mean, like,
Quite nice.
what I like about him is, and what I like what he does when he comes on is almost like a. In New Zealand, they call it mana. He brings something, and it's almost that way. He runs around. And he's like, "Yeah, guys, let's go." And a lot of us South African guys are kind of reserved like that. We don't like, with the African guys, they express themselves, and I think somehow on a rugby field that helps those guys to get fired up. They're like, "Yes, let's go." So I like that about him, and just it's backed up. He's not like. He's backed up with really, really good play. If you watch that game that they played, he made 2 of those tries. That first one and the one of Malcolm Marx, which it makes him really, like, at the moment, great for the Springboks. With his injury, we just hope that he's going to be good. And to be honest, if you asked me before he was going to come back, I would have said before, I don't know if he makes such a difference. To be honest, like he was always a decent player. He's been the captain for a while and whatever. But I did not know what an influence he has, and I can clearly see when he's on the field, it feels different, and he makes a difference. Those broken plays where he breaks away and he gets those beautiful passes away, it results in tries, which I don't think any of the other guys are playmakers like that, like Kulisi,
Yeah.
and that's what I like about him. I mean, there's guys like a Marco van Staden and everyone, great carriers, a Visa, whatever. But to be honest, they don't have that agility to get the ball away quickly and kind of just run lines to create opportunities. So that's what I liked about him. And then talking about the All Black guys, Cam Roygard had a good game when he came on. I think that guy's got pace. He looked good. And then I think the other guy that we also discussed was Mark Talia. He reminds me a little bit of Peterson that used to play for the Springboks. He's the winger. He's got a way to get around people, and he had a pretty good game as well. I like him also quite a bit. Maybe it's because he's got South African blood. I don't. No, but he's good. He is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got something about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite strong on his feet as well.
Look, I mean, if you're going to go rate all wingers, I don't know if he'll be the best for me, like out of all wingers, but he's almost one of those elusive guys that somehow finds the try line. I don't know how he does it. Because I saw him kind of like just wiggle his way and just get up again, and then you don't just get him, you must tackle him properly. You know, a guy that kind of was a little bit disappointing, that's usually like that, Sevilla kind of was also a bit flustered. He wasn't the normal Adi Sevilla. We know that guy usually gets leg drives and he won't like stop.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like I said, it seems like everybody was off. There was definitely something not right in the team. And like I say, maybe it's just an eye blind or something, or to make the guy soft. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and then how about that guy? What's the player's name that hurt his knee?
Oh yeah, Tyrell Lomax. So let's talk about that injury. That you know how that happened. Ian Foster afterwards. I don't know if they saw it somewhere on the obviously the replays. They got guys who watches. It's apparently something on a talk, and I believe it might be Willems's talks. It's on the bottom of the blades or something that cut him like that. So they're going to look into it. He said, obviously it's not intentional, but they need to look at the safety of the players. But I thought of this before when I watched rugby, and I thought to myself, sometimes the guys, even tape and stuff, you know, you tape yourself up. And I think to myself, if you tape yourself up like that and you're pushing a guy through the face like that, that's probably where all these cuts and stuff come from. Because, I mean, that stuff's still hard. It's not like normal skin. But yeah, that was rough, eh? That's a rough one for him.
Well, maybe it's a bit beard, you know.
Good one. So I mean, I don't know. With that injury, the big question that they have, the All Blacks, is they've got a problem where if it's gone into the muscle, the cut, then he could be out for long. If it's not muscle, then it's skin, then it just...
That looked bad, eh? That looked really bad. I mean...
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and the problem is, you know, it's not a good way to think about it that he's gone out. If it was a normal injury, it's fine, but this is unnecessary. Why should there ever be anything on a boot that can cause that, you know? But it's because they do all these fancy things and bolt things out on the boots now that, you know... At speed, if something goes through skin, it can really cut it badly, you know. But yeah, I'm curious to see what that is. What the outcome's going to be there.